Yo, y'all can hear me, chat? Is the audio quality clear? Yo, y'all can hear me, chat? Is the I figured it could possibly be. But yo, what's good, chat? How y'all feeling today? I'm feeling blessed. Back with more of me playing Fortnite, man. It's been quite a while since I've been streaming. I've been constantly recording, constantly just editing. Like, y'all gonna see all the uploads. Like, and not even, like, actually, you'll find out, like, once the upload occurs, like, I am just, I'm gonna play for quite a bit, possibly play a few matches or a couple matches and head to bed. And possibly play later today, real shit. And when I'm at my mom's place, shit, I gotta figure out what game to possibly play. Possibly Fortnite. I mean, who knows? Because my homie Caleb has not necessarily been, like, playing with me considering the fact that he's currently at Louisiana. And there's certain questions I want to consider asking him. In terms of his girl. Like, something about his girl. So. But possibly not gonna mention on stream. It's gonna possibly be, like, off stream. You know what I mean? It's something I wanna mention to him overall. Anyway, Jay, my bad. I was thinking about something personal. My bad. But anyway, yeah, without further ado, let's shit. Apparently, just see outpost enclave. Enclave? Man, my eyes are quite fucked. So it's gonna take quite a while for me to process in terms of that shit. Which I'm pretty sure that that is specifically associated with my rare specific type of mental trauma, which is very, very, very temporary and overall very decreased, like very decreased overall. Yada. I mean, um, but yeah, there's certain things I've mentioned on like my uploads, so I'm possibly not gonna mention on the stream, so y'all can like overall like. Well, I could possibly mention it because like my uploads may not possibly be like the on the exact day. Like when I upload it, people are gonna assume like, oh, it's that day, but then they're gonna be like, oh, like, like I'm possibly gonna have to re-edit them or something. Like I gotta, man, it's gonna take a while, quite a while. So I gotta real shit just edit. So I'm possibly not gonna record tomorrow. Well, I possibly could, but possibly can focus on editing. I haven't been uploading. I don't necessarily want to repeat that scenario where I constantly stress and get anxious and not necessarily edit and just upload it. Yeah, I mean. But anyway, I'm possibly gonna mention it, and then once you like watch it upload, you and be like, ah, I got you. So on that day, that's exactly what happened overall. Oops, took quite a while for me to process, and didn't necessarily have the full shield gauge. But anyway, so I'm possibly gonna mention that earlier today, um before I mentioned that part, earlier, like even earlier today, not today, yesterday actually. This is all yesterday because it's currently 2:52 a.m. Yeah, possibly after this match, I'm gonna have to bed. Like I will stay up, but like I'm just gonna possibly head to my into my room or possibly just watch YouTube. Because you all would find out on like my uploads and not possibly like mention like I did this or whatever that day, so y'all can be like, ah, I got you. And then once I actually record the video and upload it that day exactly, then I wouldn't necessarily add that like caption where like for example, if I was on vacation, I would be like, this video was recorded that day and I was vacation that day and I uploaded that day. So, or it wouldn't necessarily matter. Like if you know, oh shit, hold up, I gotta heal. But anyways, earlier today, so I was at my grandparents' place. Well, helping my dad and grandpa. And obviously, YouTube's gonna keep you private of what I specifically mentioned about this, whether I'm live streaming or uploading, but overall, yeah, you know what I mean? Because they would know. They would know for sure. Hold up, before I mention this, you no match. I'm gonna possibly play majority of Fortnite later today. But anyway, so I was at my grandparents' place, and I was helping him out with the tree because it was either dead or they didn't necessarily want it. So I was helping my dad and my grandpa with him, and um, yeah, you know how old-fashioned people are. Certain old-fashioned people, whether it's your parents or grandparents or great-grandparents, who knows, um, it depends if they're outdated or going according to God and my Jesus Christ law. But if you're old fashioned, you're going according to Satan law, you're being outdated. You just want to stick with what Satan wants you to do and not necessarily be a changed person spiritually as going according to something very modern, like actually modern, according to God and my Jesus Christ. And actually understanding like what God and my Jesus Christ wants you to do overall. You know what I mean? But anyway, so overall, and actually have my friend actually texted her yesterday, well, obviously, because it's currently Sundays, July 27th. It's gonna be August next week, thank goodness, because I have my intern next month, and I want to get this over with until June, so I can just move to Miami, Florida, live my life. Um, all right, so I texted her 4 hours ago, so no, not 4 hours ago. I mentioned this shit to her like 4:37 p.m. That's more than 4 hours. Um, it was 10 hours ago, so that was like yesterday, obviously. So I mentioned to her. So I was helping my dad and grandpa with the tree. They want to get out of the way at my grandparents' place overall. And so they once I got the tree down, so then I had to grab the like logs and pieces of something part of the tree. So I had to grab the logs. And I had to consider putting on my dad truck bed. Well, before I even considered putting it on there, I had to move the truck. And they want to see like how great I am at driving. And when people are old fashioned, they like to be arrogant. Yeah, people who are old fashioned are arrogant as well. And so my dad's truck wasn't necessarily that bad. So It was overall great, but anyway, so I had to back up my dad's truck. So then it was like a Chevy Silverado, the one that released last year, I'm pretty sure. So you got the 2024 one. But anyway, I'm not gonna mention much of the details. Well, it's a truck. Anybody can buy it. I can mention the details of the truck. Not anything that's associated with my dad. I'm not gonna necessarily mention it. You know, for certain reasons, it's gonna take a while for me to process. But anyways, I had to back up my truck. My grandpa had to sit in the truck. Well, because my ears are fucked, so they may think that I may not be able to hear, or they may think that I'm a dumbass at driving when I'm not the one. It was my driver instructor. He was a dumbass. The way he treated me. I'm sure I mentioned the story. Yeah, it's fucked. But anyway, so I had to back up my truck and my dad's truck, but it took quite a while for me to process. So I knew like how to start a truck. You have to have the key with you, obviously. You click on the button. You start. You know how they have buttons, so no necessary key fob. Which I love the buttons. Like those buttons they start the car with or truck or SUV. Well, car, SUV, and truck. Because a different version of the vehicles. Those are all the vehicle categories. But anyway, so I started a truck. I click on the button, which is like you have to have the key with you overall. So I started a truck. Had to put my seatbelt on because the vehicle wants to ensure that you are putting out for safety in case you were driving or just overall, for safety overall. So then I shift the gear to reverse, like you're going backwards. It's the opposite of going forwards, backwards. So then when you're backing up, you have to gently press on the brake, but not like press it too hard. And you just have to overall gently like press it, which I did great. I I definitely did great. So I'm gonna mention to like my dad, like, hey, can you take me to the parking lot? I'm gonna prove to you that what you witnessed was just one thing, but what you're gonna witness isn't like back when I was 14, where it took me a very long while for me to process, compared to today, where it takes quite a while for me to process. You know what I mean? Like, like you're gonna realize, like, when what you're gonna witness in a parking lot, you're gonna sit in a vehicle, because obviously you can act like my driver instructor, which please don't treat me like my driver instructor. But anyway, I'm not gonna mention much about my dad. Eh, he goes the way he treats. I'm not gonna mention much because he's my dad. I'm not gonna mention much unless I have to, but obviously YouTube's gonna keep it private. Avoid specifically mention overall. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, um, so yeah, I was backing up, so I did great, like I mentioned. But yeah, what you're gonna see in the parking lot, it's gonna be great. Like I know exactly how to park, and I'm gonna demonstrate overall, like how exactly you park. So when you're in a parking lot, I'm gonna show them how I drive, how I turn my steering wheel. Actually, hold up. You know what I could possibly show? I could possibly show my dad, like, take me to some subdivision, or I could do his subdivision, and overall, like, I'm gonna ensure, like, because when you're driving a truck, so I'm possibly gonna go according to the speed limit, so I don't necessarily run into any vehicle, because it's not my vehicle, it's my dad. So, Anyway, my bad. I'm overthinking about like when I was driving and how my driver instructor treats my um how he treated me. Like he was ass. Like the way he yells at me. When you're a driver instructor, you don't yell. Yeah, yeah. Driving is considered safe if you play it safe overall, but it can be dangerous in terms of how you drive. But overall, you don't yell. They are a rookie overall. They are overall new to driving. You teach them how to drive before they take the state test and get that. Well, once I remove all age requirements, despite the age requirement laws being temporarily on exactly the year 2035 or 2029 to change that, I'm possibly gonna overall change it, like instead of having a permit and driver license, well, turn into ID, like it's meant to be used as an ID, like identification instead of a license, instead of having a permit. After that, and after you've most likely learned how to drive and take the state test, you would just get a certificate, like some type of paper to show to the cops that like you show proof that you know how to drive and know the traffic laws. Which the traffic laws, despite them being temporary, because that is, well, it's associated with God Almighty Jesus Christ, but it's temporarily because the original transportation is to walk to one place to another. But obviously, there's certain reasons why we use car. It's faster. Humans can have fatigue in terms of the moral character and just what's in their mortal body, depending on the moral character, if they have plenty of energy or not. And just like to learn, like if you, know what I mean. But anyway, um, um. So anyway, afterwards, like once I backed up my that truck, which I did great, I am gonna prove to courtesy, which is a driving school I had to, which I'm gonna prove that I'm a changed man. Changed man means you're mentally mature and you're a changed boy to a man mentally, not physically. Certain people think it's physically in terms of physical development, but it's mentally, despite certain false interpretations and real interpretations, or like interpretations that are considered facts. That's something that you can prove that's facts. But anyway, so then once I backed up to like near the tree, like where the pieces are, or not pieces, like the tree that was on the grass, like that to pick up, like some of the logs of the tree to pick up, to consider putting on my dad's truck because he's gonna use some of it for like bonfire and just whatever, work related, whatever he's gonna use it for. Which another thing he mentioned that if the truck doesn't have like a top on it, yeah, if it doesn't necessarily have a top on it, like I'm quite curious, like how exactly would the cops like, how exactly would you get arrested? Like, oh, because if they see you don't have a top, they're gonna think that one of the things is gonna fly off and hit the like vehicles. Well, it took quite a while for the process because the way I was setting it on the truck bed, he's like, "Oh, this is how you set it." Like, man, if I was a grandpa to my grandchildren, I am gonna hope that they don't have to witness what I witnessed at this very moment. From back then to now, like back then, it took a very long while for me to process till today, where I have to deal with this. But no, back then it took me a very long while for me to process compared to today, where it takes quite a while for me to process. Excuse the stutters. I am quite stressed and anxious simply because of all that shit. But anyway, but yeah, overall, yeah, it takes quite a while for me to process. Like till now. Well, back then it takes quite a while. It takes me a very long while for me to process back then, compared to today, where it takes quite a while for me to process. Like quite a while for me to process. But the way he treated me back then till today is the same. But the way I processed back then, in terms of my rare specific type of mental trauma, which is very rare and very temporarily, and overall was and overall very increased and very increased overall back then compared to today, where it takes quite a while for me to process. And in terms of my, which is specifically associated with my rare specific type of mental trauma, like in terms of that, which is very, very, very temporarily and overall very decreased overall. Yeah, you know what I mean. But anyway, so he thought that when I was setting one of the logs on the truck bed, he thought I was gonna hit the glass, and I'm like, you should be more grateful that it didn't hit the back of the truck glass. Like I was pissed earlier. I was like yesterday is what I'm referring to, but I was like pissed. I was like, um, I was throwing it on a truck bed. Don't some people throw certain things on a truck bed without necessarily hitting the glass? Plus, if they hit the glass, then repair it. You're not doing it in terms of being arrogant and destruction of property. Like no offense, but you gotta like chill, man. So what else did I mention to her on my truck bed? Oh yeah, to put the barks and branches on the truck bed. That's why I have to back up the truck. And they want to see how I back it up. And I was like, it was all right because of my old fashioned grandpa. And obviously, you just can keep it private. But what specifically mentioned about it has nothing to do with me. The way I backed it up. I'm referring to like how he treated me. Like, come on, bro. Like saying, oh, don't press it too hard. Like, bro. Anyway, I'm gonna be in the parking lot, whatever. See how it's gonna possibly be like. Cause once I get a job, I am gonna learn, not learn, cause I know it's gonna take a while for me to process overall. But I'm gonna prove to them that I'm not the dumbass that they thought I was, which I would never was. I'm gonna prove to them that I'm a smartass that I was back then, compared to how it took me a very long while for me to process back then, compared to today where it takes quite a while for me to process. So I'm gonna prove to them. Watch, I'm gonna go to that same driving school. I feel like certain people mentioned, oh, don't go to that place if there's a reason. Like I'm not gonna head to that place where I was volunteering yet because I was dealing with plenty of shit that I didn't necessarily like because the teachers, the way they treated the volunteers and students there. I'm definitely gonna do that place, but there's plenty for you to know once my homie posted on YouTube. I'm gonna mention to him like, hey, watch this live stream because I was mentioning something about that, but you'll consider like noticing, My homie Farhan. I'll be sure to send his YouTube channel whenever once I'm able to, but it'll take quite a while for me to process and how I can get that situated overall. But yeah, apparently that's how my day was yesterday. I didn't work because my uncle is actually gonna head to go on a vacation, so he's actually subscribed to my channel. So if he see the stream, he's gonna be like, "You damn right, I'm gonna head to Miami, bro." Yeah, he's gonna head to Miami. That's all I'm gonna mention. I'm not gonna mention like why or whatever. I'm gonna just mention he's gonna like enjoy his day off. I feel that the work he's been doing with, if you go to his channel, you'll see what he does overall. I'll possibly, well, it's his first name, which I'm gonna mention it's Tony, and his last name is like my last name Bahari. So be sure to subscribe to him, man. Like even though he haven't been uploading, despite the circumstance, be sure to subscribe to him. Like be sure, just put his first name and put my last name. My last name is spelled Bahri. That's all you gotta spell. But anyway, overall, that's exactly what I have to deal with. And I deal with that when I work with my uncle as well, and I have nothing to do with my uncle. My uncle's great. It's the old fashioned shit. That's why I mentioned if you're a dad, if you're uncle, if you're like an older brother, meaning like you've gained mental maturity, not because you're older, but overall, because people could be older brother when you're like the first sibling in the family as a boy, but if you're older sister, then you're the first one in the family to be a girl, like the first sibling as a girl. But anyway, yeah, that's what the deal is. I know how to drive, and I knew exactly how to place the logs and logs slash barks and branches on the truck bed. Yo, what's good, AZ? How you feeling, brother? Was hoping you can watch my stream while I was talking about all this shit, cause like it was important and just something that I had to mention. But yeah, man, man. But yeah, man. I was hoping for it to be perfect timing, AZ, but man, something I mentioned was like facts, man. Yeah, and I just mentioned to my good great friend Helen, like real shit. That's exactly how old fashioned parents are. Or I mentioned that's how old fashioned he is. And she's like, wow, like, sorry to hear that, but that's what she was gonna mention. But man, yeah. But if I head back to a place that I want to consider heading to, despite the way they treat me, or that one individual treat me, or overall, I'm heading there to prove a point. Where I volunteer at, which the school is called UConnect. Obviously, Farhan is gonna mention the details. um, Possibly on his YouTube channel because I feel he definitely should consider it. Real shit. But anyway, overall, hope my mic was not muted. Whew. Sometime I get anxious. Yeah, I definitely did. Could you possibly repeat again, man? If I don't pay attention, there's a certain reason. I was anxious at one time when I was chatting with my viewers, but yeah, quite anxious. Plenty of reason. Don't even ask why. Overall, you should know. I've mentioned why. Simply because of my rare specific type of mental trauma, which is very rare, very temporary, and overall, um, very decreased and very decreased overall. Yeah, for real, man. Your friend has gotta like manage that shit. I am not gonna necessarily um I don't necessarily like to deal with people's attitude because some of my subs they had attitude. Not Chill Phoenix, he's great. Joker, he managed it. He's 14, he managed it. He's like, man, you're right, man. The demons are in me, and I released them out of me, and that is who I am. He's still who he is, but he's changed spiritually. I love my homie. No homo, but hey, I love him. To God on my Jesus Christ. Right? Man, I don't like when people have mood swings. Real shit. And you know who I'm referring to. One of my subs. Not gonna mention who. The person is fake though, but I'm not gonna mention who because to keep my subs, and I'm not doing it out of arrogance, I'm doing it out of being humble. I show respect. I'm not gonna mention who. I can mention whatever that they've done to me overall, but I'm not gonna mention who, just out of the respect, like without due respect. So don't be unsubbing because you don't necessarily know who I'm referring to. It's not Caleb. I'm not gonna mention who, but anyway, but it's definitely not Caleb. It's not necessarily AZ. Obviously not necessarily AZ overall, and it's not necessarily Joker. They're great. I don't want to talk too much about this friend. No, you definitely could. I feel people should consider hearing it regardless. People may think, oh, it's personal and it's just something that is within my scenario, but But anyway, yeah, you have the right to chat about it, But I'm so upset why this friend would do this, right? You don't have to mention exactly about that friend, but I know what you're referring to. You can consider chatting about it. Just mention the details about them. And his friend is a girl. That's all I'm gonna mention. But anyway, but yeah, overall, I'm gonna head to my driving school, show proof that I knew how to drive despite the circumstance, and I know how to work. I know how to do labor. So if you're a grandpa as well, don't be treating grandchildren like this when they get into labor and overall learning the ropes. And when you're old fashioned, don't be like, oh, older individuals have more experience. It's not necessarily about the life experience. Have nothing to do with it. People gain mental maturity overall. It's about the mental maturity overall. Don't be like, oh, you should definitely learn from the older individuals. They have more experience than you. No, not really. It depends on their mental maturity. Oh my goodness. Man, this world is messed up. It's fucked up. Yeah, right? And it's just, simply because the sinful slash fallen state slash version of this world. Universe and world, because every planet's destroyed because of people's sins of those planets. And simply because of God Almighty's, well, it's not on him, but because he destroyed it because of them. Right? Sin is, man, it's too much. But anyway, another thing I did earlier yesterday, after the commotions, the BS commotions that I had to deal with, the old fashioned shit. I and like I mentioned, chat, you'll find out on my uploads. But overall, I officially, and I'm pretty sure I haven't necessarily mentioned my stream. I'm pretty sure I did. If I did or not, I remember I mentioned I trimmed my beard throughout last week, like Sunday, I'm pretty sure Monday. No, it was Sunday. And right? If there wasn't necessary sin, she would just remain physically a kid eternally and indefinitely. And despite that overall of her being a kid, what she's meant to be as a soul, aka a glorified body slash glorified being or glorified being slash glorified body, she would just be righteous regardless. But anyway, yeah, I trimmed because who even wants hair in their body? I even mentioned to AZ on my stream 3 days ago. No, 2 days ago actually. Not 3 days ago. 2 days ago. I even mentioned like I don't want hair in my body. And what exactly did I did? Trim my chest, my abdomen, my pubes, which you know what I'm referring to in terms of that, and my leg hair. Just my upper one because if I trim the whole thing, even though my dad's not old fashioned, he's gonna be like, I would say strict. Old fashioned is a mix of strictness and just going according to Satan law. Being strict as well as going according to Satan law, not necessarily aligning with God and my Jesus Christ law, right? I'm responding to his chat and just mentioning of what I want to mention to you all, and he's listening to what I'm mentioning as well while mentioning like, oh, how why would his friend do this overall? You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. I'm reading your chat, but yeah, I just trim my upper leg because I feel like if you have shorts on, it wouldn't be noticeable. Just like and near my knee, it would be noticeable. But if they're like, why you trimmed that? I'll be like, I'm just gonna mention I just trimmed my upper leg. Like real shit. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Then, if they don't mind me trimming my whole leg, then I'm definitely gonna consider doing it. I'll just trim it, and then when I move out, I'm gonna shave it because I feel like I don't want hair in my body. Like I'm gonna constantly shave whenever it occurs because I don't want hair in my body. Overall, I don't necessarily because people would assume that I'm older than my age, right? Like people would think I'm older. Like mm. I'm meant to look younger, and I never age. But when I have hair in my body, it just makes it seem like it. And if you have hair on your body, it may seem like you have tan, but you don't because when I trim my upper leg, I didn't necessarily witness any tan. I'm like, wow, I get to witness my true skin color, no tan, just a white, well, olive white, because I'm similar to God in my Jesus Christ skin color, his race. And hey, we're all made in his image, but we all have different ethnicity. But for Middle Eastern, like his first ethnicity, which have always existed. Well, all races have through him, but it's a mix. And majority of what you witness is Middle Eastern shit, and a bit of black, which is how people get tan. Well, actually, no, tan occurs from the sun. I'm pretty sure he never had tan because he is holy and he's not meant to let heat interfere with him. I'm pretty sure she should just manage her emotions, like let that demon out. I'm not gonna really deal with it. If I were to head to California and I did have to deal with it, I'm like, I can't deal with this. I would just be like, I apologize, AZ. Well, I'm gonna mention your name when I had there, but I'm gonna be like, I apologize, but I can't deal with this. This stress and anxiety is just, I gotta head home. That's all I'll mention. Because I feel like people think it's disrespectful, but you gotta explain. And if they have no explaining, don't assume that they're disrespectful. I feel like sin is what leads people to thinking like, sorry, no, you don't have to apologize. No. I was, it was a hypothetical scenario. You don't have to apologize, man. I'm saying if I was mentioning if that were to occur, but but overall, yeah. No, I was just mentioning like yeah, sure thing. Whatever I mentioned, I'm sure you would just rewatch whatever, and you would know like what I'm specifically referring to. But anyway, um, hold up. But Anyway, overall, but yeah, I feel like when you're strict, you're not old fashioned. You would be like, ah, fine, just it's your body, man. I'm just overreacting because that is what strictness means. But at certain times, it depends on how strict they are through Satan, and not necessarily through God Almighty Jesus Christ. Because I feel like being strict is a sin. Because AZ was mentioning like, oh, being strict is great, but I'm sure that was just back then. But I feel that people are meant to be commanding, meaning going according to God Almighty Jesus Christ's law. It may seem like it's his commandment, but you got to be aware. You got to notice. Like if they mention don't have tattoos or not no energy drink, that's being strict because tattoo symbolizes something. Despite them being temporary, it shows it symbolizes something in terms of like what that paint represents or tattoo with something that's tatted like on you, like it's permanent, and then But if I have tattoo on me, then I'm gonna possibly be like, ugh, I don't want it because I want to see my skin. But I don't want hair on my body. I prefer having that than a hair because tattoo shows symbols. So you could be like, you know what? Why would I want to remove it, man? Like I feel like it wouldn't be considered a sin if you remove, like, for example, a tattoo of Virgin Mary on you, because people would think that's a sin. But I feel like because I was watching a video and people mentioned that nobody knows what God Almighty Jesus Christ looks like. The whole point why the Bible doesn't give descriptions simply because Satan doesn't want people to know. But when people know what he looks like, they're not gonna see exactly like his face and all that. He's gonna be like, I have black hair, I have olive skin, I stand at exactly 5 feet and 8 inches, which is why I'm 5 feet and 8 inches, which that could possibly be a miracle because that is my average height, which I'm grateful for. And he could possibly mention his eye color is brown, which resembles Earth and heaven, obviously, because it will possibly glow or something. But nobody would know like what he looks like. No, like nobody would be like, "Oh, hey, you're God," and he's like, "Yes, my son." Like he'd be like, "Yes, my son," but um, I mean that'd be cool if he mentioned that. But I feel like he hides himself because he doesn't want people to focus on his face, but rather, like he's gonna act genuine like that, like be very honest in terms of his tone, but he's gonna be like, but simply because he's witnessed my face doesn't necessarily mean you worship me. You worship me because of my simply because of my words, not out of my image. So I feel like he's not gonna like show a picture of himself. So if people create a picture Bible, people can show his face. I mean, certain people think that if you know what his face looks like, people would just focus on his glory, like his image, rather than his words. But I feel like that is like some. I feel like Satan made humans rewrite the Bible, which is the whole point why people doesn't know what he looks like and actually shows his face. Yeah, I mean. Anyway, hold up. Anyway, hold up. Let me go back to the part where I left off overall. Hold up. Let me go back to the part where I left off. Be a miracle because that is my average height, which I'm grateful for. And he possibly mentioned his eye color is great, but I'm sure that was just back then. But I feel that people are meant to be commanding, meaning going according to God Almighty Jesus Christ's law. It may seem like it's his commandment, but you got to be aware. You got to notice. Like if they mention don't have tattoos or no energy drink. Oh yeah, because I was mentioning about Virgin Mary. Yeah, people know what she looks like. I'm sure. Like I feel like people can know what they look like, just don't worship them simply because of their glorious image, but rather God Almighty Jesus Christ's word. Like people, certain people mention, oh, can people pray to Virgin Mary? I mean, my homie mentioned you definitely could, but I'm possibly gonna mention to him what exactly makes you think that you can consider it. Like you gotta realize, like I don't pray to her. I just pray to God Almighty Jesus Christ. So I feel like simply because you know what she looks like, which um, if God Almighty Jesus Christ mentioned what like exactly what he looks like, oops, people would certain people think they'll focus on his glory, but I feel like that he wants people to focus on his words, you know. But anyway, before I end this shit, but yeah, people have the rights to have tattoos, energy drink if they want to drink, cause it's not about the energy, it's about the flavor. I mean, it could give like, I mean, shouldn't necessarily rely on it for energy real shits. Like, um, uh, anyway, that's all I'm gonna possibly mention. But yeah, overall, yeah, we're made out of my Jesus Christ image. So let me go back to that part of where I left off. Even though my dad's not old fashioned, he's gonna be like, I would say strict. Old fashioned is a mix of strictness and just going according to Satan law. Being strict as well as going according to Satan law, not necessarily aligning with God Almighty Jesus Christ's law, right? It would be noticeable, but if they're like white trimmed down, be like, I'm just gonna mention I just trim my upper leg. Like real shit, there's nothing to be ashamed of. But when I have hair on my body, it just makes it seem like it. And if you have hair on your body, it may seem like you have tan, but races have through him, but it's a mix. Just a white, well, olive white, because. Yeah, that's what I mentioned. But yeah, so I'm like olive white, like him. But yeah, I mean, potentially when I move out, I'll possibly shave everything, like my face, my body, my upper body, my pubes, my lower body, like my legs, like upper legs, lower legs. But I kept the lower part, unfortunately. But I'll potentially trim it, or who knows, possibly shave it. Who knows? But anyway, chat, I'm gonna end right here. I'm gonna possibly head to bed. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna end right here. If you want to see more of me playing Fortnite, be sure to leave a comment down below. Otherwise, I'm gonna consider ending right here. Take it easy, chat. And yeah, whatever I mention my uploads, it's gonna be, you'll know exactly what I'm referring to. And whatever I mention my uploads, just overall, like takes quite a while for me to process, and you know exactly what I mentioned on my uploads. You'll find out what I mentioned in my uploads when I upload them. You know what I mean? But yeah, take it easy.